Just before you saw that, up next we had featured the chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association, Ahoda branch, Dr. Hilda Desmond Ihekari, speaking or raising objection to a query issued to one of her members, who is a member of the Nigerian Bar Association. The query was issued, from what we gather, on the 25th of April this year, on behalf, it would seem, of the sole administrator of River State. And the query was a query for serious misconduct issued to one Miss Cordelia Eke over some comments or a particular statement that she had co-signed on behalf of the Nigerian Bar Association. The Nigerian Bar Association has taken an issue with that particular query issued to their member, and they've asked that it be withdrawn. But then it also raises other questions as to whether when members are members of other associations, civil servants and members of other associations, are they exempt then from the rules that bind civil servants? So this morning we have with us Dr. Hilda Desmond Ihekari, who is the chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association, Ahoda branch, to speak to us on the objection which they have raised with the query issued to one of their member, Ms. Cordelia Eke. Good morning, ma'am, and welcome to Sunrise Daily.
And good morning, thank you for having me.
Yes, indeed. We saw your press conference in which you raised objections to the query issued to one of your members on a statement that she had co-authored, talking about severe and brazen acts of lawlessness and impunity on constitutional dismantling of democratic institutions and attacks on peaceful protesters in River State. This was an excerpt of a statement that she had signed, which it does appear now that her bosses have taken exception to. What exactly is the grounds of the NBA in River State?
Yes, the grounds, let me start first of all by saying the grounds of the NBA in River State is that the query issued from the Office of the Solicitor General, at the behest of the sole administration of River State, is an attempt to restrict freedom of expression and guard the bar from performing his or her role as the watchdog of a society. Now, before I go in, let me first say that Mrs. Cordelia Eke is first of all a legal practitioner, and then a member of Nigerian Bar Association before becoming a civil servant. And before she could become a civil servant, it was because she's a law officer, and she's a member of this association. So as a member of Nigerian Bar Association, we have our aims and objectives, which is principally promoting and protecting the rule of law. You understand? So the fact that she's a civil servant, does not remove that role she has as a barman, for that matter. Cordelia Eke, authored the press conference with her fellow chairman. We, as the eight branches of NBA in River State, did not even author that statement in our personal capacities. We authored that statement after due consultation with our different constituents, you understand, with our branches. And our branches are in line, agree with the stand of Nigerian Bar Association President, Afamosigo Ese. And it was on that basis too, having seen the way the sole administrator was going on, we cannot be gagged, we cannot keep quiet, and our constituent also mandated us to issue the conferences, because when the sole administrator came into River State, the way we saw it, rather than concentrating in his peace building or keeping the peace of the state, he went on dismantling democratic structures, guarding people, including lawful, peaceful protesters. In fact, I recall that the last protest, what happened was that not only did they disperse the protesters with tear gas, they arrested a correspondent from Nigerian Info and even one from, I think your television, so the China's television. And there is no way we will step back and be gassed and allow such brazen curtailment of our constitutionally guaranteed rights of the river citizen to go on unabated. So, for us, and that is the truth, the essence of this query is to guard the bar. It also shows you, the query also shows you part of the things we've been speaking against. Intolerance on the part of government, particularly the one we have now. You know, not being able to listen to constructive criticisms. You know, the sole administrator has no such virus, he has no such powers to issue query to a chairman of Nigerian Bar Association acting in her capacity. No, she did not issue press statements in her capacity as a civil servant of Rivers State Judiciary. She did not also issue that press statement in her personal capacity. Rather, she issued that statement having consulted and based on a resolution reached in her own branch, which same resolution was also reached on my own branch, you know, to stop or to try to curtail or to call the sole administrator to order, to know that we are not in a military administration. Nigeria is still operating a democracy. You understand? So all these attempts that to disperse people with tear gas, to arrest persons and stop them from speaking up, is an affront on our Section 32 of the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. And also Chapter 42, which talked about freedom of association, freedom of expression, freedom of movement. So it then means he came so that he can gather praise singers who will be singing his praises when peaceful protesters are dispersed. Let me also say.
Let me interrupt you a bit, Madam. I'm afraid I have to, because you've talked about our Constitution and how it, of course, allows for free speech. It upholds the right of every Nigerian to be able to speak freely. You have also, you know, traced, like say, Ms. Cordelia's qualifications, which you say enable her to be a civil servant. She's a legal practitioner. She became a member of the MBA, and then she became a civil servant, according to how you have chronologized it. But in the query that we have been able to cite, it does appear that, you know, the question is about how she expresses herself without prior permission. So when you join an organization, and I'm sure that you must have been very well aware of this, that when you join an organization, you are then subject to the rules of that particular organization. Isn't that correct?
Yes, you're correct. But permit me to say that we are lawyers and we obey the rule of law. I don't know if I can draw your attention, because this query is just malafide. The public service rules that they're even referring to, you know, have a proviso, but they wittingly refuse to look at the proviso to that section. The section they're talking about is section 100421, sub 1. There is a sub A, and there is A, I, and I. There's an exception. He says, except in portions of his official duty, no officer shall, without the express permission of the permanent secretary, stroke head of ministerial, whether on duty or on leave of absence, you see, A, act as an editor or take part directly or indirectly in the management of, or in any way make financial contribution to the newspaper, magazine, or journal, except the following. A, Department of Staff Magazine, 1, that's one of the section. II, Professional Journal. III, publication by voluntary organization. Without even a cursory look, even a simple look, shows you that Nigerian Bar Association is a voluntary organization. So she has breached no rules. Furthermore, they say, in portions of his official duties, Mope, listen and look at it. In portion, was Cordelia pursuing her official duty as a legal officer in the Ministry of Justice? The answer is no. Did she offer any whatever in her personal capacity? No. She has done the act, she has authored the same press statement in her role as the chairman of Nigerian Bar Association, Port Harcourt branch. So the query should go to Nigerian Bar Association and not to query. Because quick passive pay as a passive pay alum, you can act through another door. You understand? It is the NBA that has done act, and this query is against Nigerian Bar Association, and it goes to the roots of what we are there to do, protection of the rule of law. That's why NBA is taking it very personal.
Do you not think that this just makes it very simple? Because as far as a civil, and I'm not holding brief, I think it's very important to state this. I'm just trying to, look at their own perspective here and to say, don't you think that they're looking at the fact that it is her that they know, she's the one who signed that particular document, and that it would actually just be a lot easier for her to respond to the query, pointing out the fact that she has breached no rules. And when that is, eventually upheld, that will serve for all your members. It will serve for any member of the MBO, any professional body anywhere that has to sign any document, if this was an attempt to victimize her.
Let me also tell you, we are law-abiding citizens. She has already answered that query. She has already answered the query, and she has pointed it out. The Solicitor General, Soibi, and then the SSA to the sole administrator, they are lawyers too. They know. But when people choose to do something out of malice, Mrs. Soibi, the SSA to the sole administrator, or whatever she knows, Ibiari Clark Nogolo is a very senior member of the bar. So she knows that for every rule, there is an exception. And there is also an exception there. She's also a bar member. She knows that her primary constituency from day one, the NBA president made the position of the bar know that there is no reason for declaration of state of emergency in Rivers State. And we stand by that. But as law-abiding citizens, we continue to, follow it the way it is. But rather than the sole administrator to come and do the job for which he was purportedly brought here to do, he has delved into areas which he has no virus, which he has no locus to even look into. Okay, let me even go a step further. Without considering that even any section of the public service rule was breached, which was not breached in any way whatsoever. Let's, by extension, start what the law says. The law is, even this section we are talking about, now I'm talking in my personal capacity. Is this section not an affront on the constitutional provision for freedom of speech? Is this section not even an affront to the provisions of the African Charter on Women and People's Rights? Not to talk about International Labour Organization.
So is the NBA going to start a campaign to scrap out those sections of the civil service rules?
I told you that, nothing is sacrosanct until tested. Nigerian Constitution is the ground norm. And therefore, any law that is inconsistent with the provisions of that constitution will to the extent of its inconsistency, will be void. But remember that I said, I'm talking my own view. I'm an academic, you understand? Having looked at it with all these things happening, I have looked at it and I have begun to even question the provision itself. Having led it to bear to you that the NBA chairman of Port Harcourt, based on the proviso, and any seasoned lawyer knows that you cannot read the law in isolation. You must read it with the proviso, except you're a mischief maker. You understand? So I'm just making that argument, and it's always good to interrogate it. That the African Charter on Women and People's Rights, the International Labour Organization rules, and our Constitution, which is the ground norm, frowns on anything that wants to infringe on the fundamental rights of citizens, especially as enshrined in Section 4 of the Chapter 4 of the 1999 Constitution.
Let me take this to Lagos now. I know Ayo has questions for you. Ayo.
Well, thank you, Marco. I was just thinking, along, the issues that Madam is raising. I'm just wondering if there is an exception when an organization says, this is what I want to do business. I got a job, and I was giving a staff manual. There are some things that I can do, there are some things that I cannot do. Is that against the law? Can you hear me, madam?
Mr. Ayo,
Yes, please. Can you hear me well?
Pardon, yes, I can hear you now. You said
Okay.
good morning. Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes, good morning. I was just wondering, listening to some of the things that you said about the civil service rules and all. An organization gives me a job and they give me a staff manual. There are some things that I can do, there are some things that I cannot do. Is that against the law?
You know, the Constitution, it's just like there is contract and restraint of trade. And even the law on public policy grant said it has a limit to contract and restraint of trade. You understand? So but let me also say, in this particular case, Cordelia ran for the chairmanship of MBA, and she ran with the consent of her employees, including the Solicitor General of Rivers State. They did not stop her. It was when she was campaigning, they also know what MBA stands for. They also know that the MBA is the voice of the profession. They also are aware that in trying to
Madam, you've spoken to all of that quite significantly. I'm just trying to give the viewer a better understanding of the issues here. So let's say, you know, that, I mean, as you said, she has written and responded to the query and all. What are your expectations? Part of what the letter to the query says is, you know, any decision could be taken if the responses are not satisfactory. Should the responses not be satisfactory and actions are taken against your member that you are talking about now, what would the NBA do?
NBA will not take it lying low, because NBA, whose function is protection and promotion of the rule of law. I'm sure our national president will definitely take action. I'm not in a position to take, because I'm at the state level. You understand? He will take action. He will go to court so that court will look at it. You understand? So for me, it's just bullying, because even her explanation also shows that she's not guilty of any misconduct, any of those things leveled against her. But that query, let me tell you what it stands for, is an attempt to gag the NBA, both at the national and at the state, and by extension, Rivers residents and the good people of Rivers State, and any other association or group of persons who may want to speak up against the actions of the sole administrator. And an NBA being the watchdog, we are not going to take it lying low. You know, let me also say that it's an act of bullying in the workplace. Because when she ran, before she ran for that post, she saw their consent, and I've known her for some time. She's one of the finest officers they have in that their administration. She's one of their courtroom giants, going to Court of Appeal, Supreme Court, you know, performing her roles, and it has not stopped it. The only thing, we have to speak up, because the problem in society is not caused by those who do the wrong thing. It is those who do the wrong thing and decide to stand by or not do anything about that. So that's national, and that query ought to be withdrawn.
All right, then. We hope that the Solat and the rest of the people who work with him have heard the MBA, and even if they will not withdraw it, at least they should acknowledge and say why they wouldn't if they wouldn't. But we're hoping that there will be, you know, a smooth conversation with the sole administration, sole administrator, and of course the Nigerian Bar Association. We have to thank you very much, Dr. Hilda, for your contributions to the program this morning. Dr. Hilda Desmond Ihekari is the chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association, Ahoda branch. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Enjoy the rest of the day.